Hi everyone, welcome to the 10-minute miracle series. Today in this session we are going to revise two unit number 28 and unit number 29 of PPB. Both since unit number 28 is very short, I think it is covered in just 7 pages. So that's why I have merged two units and I am providing those quick revision of those two units in a single video. So for just 10 minutes you spare your valuable time and I will be able to revise you all the important points related to these two units. So let's begin with, first of all, let's talk about why documents are so important in lending, right? The documents plays a very important in lending. So these documents are used to identify the borrower, confirm the loan address and loan details, then after ensure repayment and even help in legal recovery. But if the document are not filled out properly, they can become invalid. Now the types of document, there are few main types of document. The first is called DPN. DPN stands for demand promissory note. It means that the borrower promises to repay the loan whenever asked, and the interest is charged as per the agreement under the Negotiable Instrument Act section number 4. Next we have agreement. These agreements cover the loan amount, interest, security. They need to be stamped as per the Indian law to be valid. Some common agreements include pledge, hypothecation, term or clear loan and guarantee. It is important these are signed with proper stamp. Lastly, there are some forms. These shows the borrower intent but are not a formal promise or agreement like the other. So always ensure your loan documents are properly filled and stamped to avoid issues later. Now let's talk about the documentation procedures. So first, the type of document you need will depend on the borrower and the facilities they are getting, and stamping is must. According to the Indian Stamp Act, all document needs to be stamped, but the rule are different if the document are signed inside India or outside India. Plus, stamp duty varies state-wise. If the document is not stamped, there is a penalty. When it comes to filing and execution, filing and signing, everything should be clear. The signature should be consistent with no confusion, and two bank officials need to witness the signing. And if there are any changes later, make sure to follow legal procedure. All changes need full signature, and remember there is a time limit for the legal action under the Limitation Act of 1963. So please go through this time limit, very important from examination point of view. You know about this limitation period? So limitation period for a loan can be extended if there is a part payment or the acknowledgement of the debt. Otherwise, fresh documents are required. Now, when it comes to the renewal of the document, you can either create new one or add deeds, but avoid cancelling the original one to keep the loan secure. Now, if the debt become time barred, so what does it mean? It means that the time limit has passed. So you need a fresh promise from the borrower to start a new cause of action. Now safekeeping. Safekeeping of loan document is also very crucial. This must be securely stored under an official custody in fireproof cabinet to ensure accountability. Then comes incumbency charges. So when there is an incumbency charge, suppose there is a new officer who takes up, right? So new officer who take over, so proper handling of document is necessary. The document should be preserved until the loan is fully recovered. Till that point, document should be preserved. That is called incumbency charge, right? So proper document handover is required and preserved until dues are recovered. Remember this. Now let's talk about the error-free documentation. So to wrap things up, let's talk about error-free documentation. For loan document to be valid, there must be accurate. It must be stamped on time and follow the legal rules. Document storage is centralized at hubs and should be kept safe until the full recovery of the due. Now let's discuss the RBI prudential norm. This was till unit number 28. Now let's move on to unit number 29. So RBI prudential norm, these are the rules which cover how bank recognize income, how they classify asset, and how they set provision based on how well the loan is performing. There is something called NPA definition. What is NPA? NPA means non-performing asset. So it is a loan where no income has been received for over 90 days. Payment are overdue and or the loan is not performing, right? So that is called NPA. Now for out of order account, there is some type of account which is called out of order. So this out of order account happen if the loan exceed its limit for 90 days and there are no credit for 90 days or the credit are not enough to cover the interest. So this is called out of order account. So what is NPA? NPA is such type of loan where no income has been received for over 90 days, payment are overdue, or the loan is not performing. And out of order means if the loan exceeded limit for 90 days, they had no credit for 90 days, or insufficient credit for interest. Now let's talk about the income recognition. So in lending, income is only recognized based on actual recovery, right? Not on NPA until the money is actually received. When it comes to NPA interest, no interest is charged on NPA. Any unpaid interest or fees need to be reversed or accounted for. Interest realization should only come from genuine recovery, not from fresh loan or credit. NPA reporting. Every year on March 31st, bank must submit an NPA report for their global portfolio. Lastly, advance include both a standard asset as well as gross NPA, which gives a full picture of the bank loan performance. As you can see, gross advance is equal to a standard asset plus gross NPA. Now if we talk about the net advance, this is calculated by taking gross advance and subtracting the deduction, that is NPA provision, pending claim, part payment, interest capitalization, floating provision, right? Then we have NPA ratio. If we calculate gross NPA percentage, it is a ratio of gross NPA upon gross advantage, and net NPA percentage is equal to net NPA upon net advances multiplied by 100 to convert into percentage. And you know, gross NPA, it includes principal dues and funded interest term loan, that is called FITL, right? So lastly, bank need to review credit limit within 3 months. If there is a delay of about 6 months, the loan become an NPA. However, if the borrower pay off arrear, the loan can be upgraded. Loan can be upgraded if the borrower pay off the arrear. Now let's talk about NPA handling. So how NPA are handled? If a loan become an NPA, remember all related facilities and securities are also considered NPA. However, bills under letter of credit might not become NPA even if other accounts are NPA. For derivative, if the payment are overdue by more than 90 days, they are treated as NPA. Eroded and fraudulent securities turned into doubtful and loss asset. For agriculture loan, it is called NPA. They become NPA if they are overdue for 2 short or 1 long crop season. A staff housing loan become NPA if payment are overdue on due date. Relief for agriculture borrower. So there is a relief for agriculture borrower. Short term loan can be restructured if there is a calamity. Now project norms. Finally, project norm can also affect asset classification if there are changes in the repayment schedule or deferment in DCCO. This can impact how the asset is classified. Okay, so project in so far as project is concerned, repayment schedule changes and DCCO deferment, it can impact asset classification. Now let's move on to the asset income recognition. So income recognition for different type of asset. So first is for a standard asset, right? For a standard asset, income is recognized on accrual basis, meaning it is recorded as it is earned. So when I say accrual basis, it means it is recorded when it is earned. For substandard asset, income is recognized on cash basis. It means it is recognized on cash basis only when the actual it is received. So remember, this is very important recognition of income. Now when it comes to Exim Bank, they also offer post shipment credit covered by ECGC under a guarantee refinance program, right? So Exim Bank offer post shipment credit covered by ECGC under a guarantee refinance program which help exporter. For PPP exporter, what is PPP exporter? Public private partnership exporter. Debts are secured if the repayment is guaranteed by the authority as per the concessional agreement. Bank also need to separately disclose any loan that are backed by intangible collateral. Now let's talk about the NPA provisional guidelines. See, let's talk about NPA provisional guidelines. Different loans have different provisioning requirement. As you can see, farm credit, housing and SME, it required 0.25% NPA provisioning. Then CRE, commercial real estate, it is 1%. CRE residential, it is 0.75%. For teaser rate housing, it is 2%, which is reduces to 0.4% in 1 year. Now loan restructured due to natural calamity need 5% provision, and for other loan including medium enterprise, it is 0.40%. Now keep in mind, standard asset provisioning are excluded from the NPA calculation. Remember it. Standard asset provisioning are excluded from the NPA calculation. There is also extra provisioning for loan with unhedged foreign currency risk. Now lastly, EBID, earning before interest and depreciation, which is used in the debt service coverage ratio, that is DSCR, is calculated as. So see how EBID is calculated. It is profit after tax plus depreciation plus interest on debt plus lease rental. Now let's talk about the floating provision. So till now we have seen the NPA provision, and let's move on to the floating provision, what it is all about. So friends, floating provision and additional provision, these two things we will look at. So first, floating provision are like extra saving that the bank keep aside. So what is this floating provision? So these are extra saving, right? These are extra saving that bank keep aside for their loan or investment, but they can only use this in really serious situation, and even then only if the bank board or the RBI says so. So you can see clearly written, it is created for advanced investment, need board policy, only used for extraordinary situation, right? These provision can't be used for regular bad loan provision and won't show up in profit or loss. However, they help reduce the value of the bad loan or even count toward the bank extra capital, right? So this is the advantage. Now for additional provisioning, you can see the additional, and this can be netted from NPA or counted as tier 2 capital. Remember it can be counted as tier 2 capital. Okay, so we are talking about floating provision up to 1.25% of the RWA. Remember, they can be counted as tier 2 capital. Tier 2 capital is also called goal concern capital, right? You know it very well. They are also called goal concern capital. Now for additional provisioning, bank can make extra provision for bad loan in sector that are at more risk. Specifically when it comes to lease asset, bank need to set aside 15% for the loan amount that has not been paid yet, right? And if the asset is unsecured, you can see if the asset is unsecured, they add an extra 10% on the top of that. It is all about bank keep prepared for unexpected financial bumps, right? Now let's see about doubtful asset. So if we talk about the doubtful advance, doubtful lease asset, and some other key point, for doubtful lease asset, if there is no security backing the loan, bank must made 100% provisioning. So 100% provisioning in case of doubtful lease asset, right? And second thing is that if the asset is secured, right? If the asset is secured, in that case, the amount bank set aside will depend on the value of security. So how much security is there, on basis of that the value it decided, right? Next we have the concept of write-off. See, if the loan is completely written off, it is taken off the book, or bank made 100% provisioning for it. It means that bank has set aside the full amount for the loss but keep it in their record. For advance against deposit or instrument, the amount of provision a bank need to make depends on how the asset is classified, whether it is a bad loan or not. Lastly, we have interest suspense account. This account is used to track interest that is not received. Before bank calculate how much they need to set aside for bad loan, they deduct this interest from the loan balance. But remember, it is not counted as a provision. In short, these rules help bank stay cautious with their money and protect themselves from the loss. Now let's talk about doubtful advance under ECGC guarantee. Very, very important. See, the ECGC is an insurance company that protect bank when loan go bad. If bank has a loan covered by this guarantee, they only need to make provision for the amount that exceed the guarantee. This is the basic point, remember it, right? That exceeding the guarantee, they have to make provision. After factoring in any security they can recover. Now, high NPA provision, bank can set aside more money than required for bad loan if they do this consistently. This help reduce the overall bad loan on their book. For substandard lease asset, bank must set aside 15% of their loan amount plus any unpaid interest, and if the asset is unsecured, then extra 10% provisioning. And finally, for doubtful lease asset, bank need to set aside 100% of the loan amount if it is unsecured, and for secured asset, the provisioning depend on how long the loan has been doubtful. Remember, these are very important point, right? So these measures help bank stay prepared and minimize their risk from bad loans. Now let's talk about CGT MSE. See, let's talk about some important guarantees and provisioning related to loans. First of all, for loan covered under CGT MSE and CRG FT LIH guarantee. So bank don't need to set aside money for the portion of bad loan covered by this guarantee. Already I have told you in the case of ECGC also, right? They only make provision for the part that is not guaranteed. When it comes to foreign currency loan, if the Indian rupees loses value, it increases the amount overdue on this loan, meaning bank need to set aside more provision, right? Suppose rupee depreciate and it increases, the then required provisioning, right? And if they lose money from revaluation loss in, if they lose money from revaluation, it is recorded as loss in their profit and loss statement, but any gain can be used to make provisioning. Finally, for country risk provision, bank need to set aside money for loan given to foreign country with the amount ranging from 0.25% to 100% depending on the risk. However, no provisioning is needed for the loan in the bank home country, right? That is called country risk. You know country risk, already you know about it. Okay. Now let's wrap up with few more banking provision for loan as foreign branches. You can see, for loan as foreign branches, bank need to make provision, but short term loan get lower provision compared to longer one. And now let's move on to the other provision. If a bank has provided liquidity for a loan that has been overdue for more than 90 days, right? Remember, bank has provided liquidity for the loan that has been overdue for more than 90 days. They have to fully provision for it. Remember it. That is called securitization liquidity. Next, for teaser loan, these loans with low interest rate initially, bank need to set aside 2% as the provisioning, which drop to 0.40% after a year. We already know about it, right? And you know, bank also need to set aside 3% more if the borrower goes over the lending limit. Lastly, there is something called PCR, provisioning coverage ratio. See, which is the measure of how much a bank has set aside for bad loan as compared to its total bad loan. So a 70% ratio is advised, meaning 70% of the bad loans should have provision. Any extra can be kept as buffer for future losses, but this need RBI approval. All these measures help bank stay cautious and prepare for potential risk. Remember, this PCR full question is asked sometimes regarding PCR. Now, writing of NPA, let's talk about it. So let's dive into writing of NPA and the process for resolution plan. When a bank write off a bad loan, any interest earned on the loan is taxable when the bank receive it. But the provisions set aside for this bad loan are non-tax deductible. Remember it. Interest on the bad taxable are taxable, while the NPA provisioning non-deductible. So, but the provision set aside, yes, for resolution plan, you know, this is called RP. If a borrower over 5 crore or more, the bank must report it to CRILC, a credit reporting system, and start a resolution plan before the borrower default. Right? If the default happen, bank need to review the account within 30 days. When the bank work together on a resolution plan at least 75% of the total loan value and 60% of the lender needs to agree on the plan. If some lender does not agree, the plan must still offer them at least the liquidation value of the loan. The resolution plan has to be finalized and put into action within 180 days after the account review. These steps ensure that a smooth process for handling troubled loan. You know, resolution plan is related to trouble. That is called ICA, Inter-Creditor Agreement. Now, let's talk about this resolution plan, how it is implemented. See, there are few ways to implement the resolution plan. The first is account can be regularized, meaning the borrower start paying again. The loan can be sold to other party, or the loan term can be restructured, right? So for larger loan of 100 crore or more, special conditions are applied. Now, when it comes to implementing a resolution plan, an independent credit evaluation, that is called ICE, is required if the plan involve restructuring, especially restructuring the loan or changing ownership, especially for the case of 100 crore or more. The resolution plan is considered implemented once all the lender conditions are met or if the loan is fully settled. This process ensures that large loans are handled with care and the bank's interests are protected. Now let's talk about the delayed implementation. See, let's go over what happened with the delayed implementation of a resolution plan. If the resolution plan, in short it is called RP, is not implemented on time, bank must set aside extra provision. If they don't comply, the RBI may take supervisory action against them. There are some exemptions, right? Small businesses or MSME and entities covered under a special RBI insolvency rule are excluded from this requirement. For prudential norms on restructuring, if a borrower is struggling financially, right, the bank can offer some relief or concession, but this must be backed by a board approved policy. Finally, when an account is restructured, it is first downgraded to NPA, that is bad loan. A specific rule dictates how it can upgrade again if the borrower start making regular payment. Now let's talk about the additional finance in the next slide. See, let's look at the additional financing is how it is classified. When additional financing is given, it is labeled as a standard asset, right? If the borrower is performing well within their payment. For interest on this restructured standard asset, it is calculated on accrual basis, meaning the bank record it as income even if it has not been paid yet. However, for loan classified as NPA, it is recognized on cash basis. Already I have told you, right? So according to the RBI guidelines, any restructured should consider borrower ability to repay. Any restructuring should consider the borrower ability to repay. If there is no change in the ownership, interest must still be recorded on cash basis. Now additionally, you can see restructuring based on borrower repayment capability, interest on cash basis until ownership change. Now what is the next point? The next point is bank have the option to convert the principal amount of the loan into debt or equity, and any unpaid interest can be turned into FITL, that is called funded interest term loan. These rules help ensure that the bank may make fair decision while supporting the borrower. Now let's talk about the dissemination of information. See, very important point. So let's discuss the responsibilities bank have regarding willful defaulter, another key issue. If a borrower is a willful defaulter, you know what is a willful defaulter, right? Meaning they have defaulted on a loan of 25 lakh or more. Bank must report this to the CIC, Credit Information Company, within a month. If there are complaints against negligent auditor, bank report this to ICAI, that is Institute of Chartered Accountants of India, the RBI and the Indian Bank Association. The IBA also shared the names of CA firms with multiple complaints. For advocate, for valuers who provide incorrect certification, bank will report them to IBA if the issue is not resolved within 1 month. Now regarding bank loan for promoter contributions. So the bank are not allowed to give loan for buying equity in other company. However, they can finance a specialized company that are acquiring troubled firm. Before any financing, bank must conduct independent credit appraisal and perform sensitivity tests for project, especially those related to infrastructure. These measures help ensure that bank operate transparently. So friends, this was all about our Unit 28 and Unit 29. Hopefully you enjoyed the session. If you really want PDF of this, you can WhatsApp me on this particular number, or you can check the description section. I have provided the capsule course link. In capsule course, you will get PDF of such thing. If you really find that this video was useful, please hit the like button. Do subscribe our channel for receiving such type of content. Thank you.